I'm Terry Atkins, Associate Broker with Arizona Prime Real Estate, and today I have with me Tim Muse with Empire West Title Agency. He is the Chief Title Officer there, and we're going to talk about some escrow and title questions. Hi, Tim. Thanks for
Terry.
being here.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
So we'll start off with the basics. You know, when I show homes and I have buyers and we pick that perfect house, then we open up escrow. So we would go to Empire West, open up escrow with a title officer, and then what happens behind the scenes there?
Okay. Well, when you bring your contract in, your earnest money, we get you set up with an escrow officer. She opens up the file. She sends opening paperwork out to all parties. She orders title work from the title department, and then the title department will take that order and research the property, check back taxes, check for assessments, anything that could be an encumbrance on property, we check for. We compile it into what we call a title commitment or a title report, and that will have a requirement page of things that need to happen for successful clear title to be conveyed to the buyer at close of escrow.
And then you're the Chief Title Officer, so do you oversee the title and escrow officers and double check everything? And
actually, we're some bigger shops. Like there was a time where I worked in Phoenix, and it was a large regional production center, is where there were like a lot of title officers, there were a lot of title examiners, and then there was one chief title officer who was kind of the go-to person. The title examiners basically did most of the research, compiled the title reports. The title officers were assigned to certain files. They would maintenance the files. They would answer questions, determine risks. If something wasn't real black and white, if it's kind of a gray area, that's kind of where a lot of your judgment calls come through. Checking with the underwriters, and then of course the chief title officer is where everybody kind of, he was also the go-to person, he or she was also the go-to person for that whole department. In smaller shops like we have in Prescott, chief title officer basically is kind of still the go-to person, but even more because there's not a lot of people underneath. So we have, like in our shop, we have a total of 3 title personnel, and so basically the title officers have a certain dollar amount that of liability that they can go up to, and then the chief title officer has a higher dollar amount for decisions, and then if it's over the chief title officer, they go to the underwriter's legal counsel to get final. So if it's like several, like say $5 million or higher, you'd have to go to the underwriters to get approval of what you're going to be insuring. And
the ultimate goal is a clear title.
A clear title.
So we just had this happen where I happen to be the listing agent on that one. So the buyer typically chooses the escrow company. So I didn't get a choice. I was the listing agent, and that buyer was through another company, and we get a phone call saying that they don't want to issue title insurance. My seller had picked it up on an auction, and he had lived there for 6 or 7 years. And so there was a few things where that other company just said, hey, we don't want to, this is too big of a risk, but we didn't understand why. So then you were my go-to, hey, can you explain it to me? Because nobody else was explaining it at the time. So, and then Empire West Title Agency ultimately did issue the title insurance and researched it.
Right. We ended up, researching it out and checked with our underwriters and determined that the risk was nominal enough to insure the transaction. And so we ended up closing escrow on it and insuring it.
Yes, we did close escrow. Yes.
Which is the main goal.
Everybody was very happy. But if this is a fair question, why would another company see such a large risk?
Well,
And then,
fair question.
Okay.
Fair question. There are. Let me just kind of explain the differences between there's a couple of different kinds of title companies. There's a title company that is a direct insurer. Like say First American, for example. They insure their own titles, and so they only have to check one place for underwriting questions and risks and things like that. Then there's title agencies that have one or more underwriters that they are in association with. And so, like for ours, we have 5 different underwriters that we can go off of, and you know, certain underwriters we know that do better here, and then we have another underwriter that does really good here, and so we get to know the strengths and weaknesses of each underwriter with an agency. And so I went to the one that I thought would be the best one to insure, and you know, wrote the title commitment, supply the information, and get a ruling as to yes, we can insure on that. So that's kind of what I did behind the scenes is research the title, write the title commitment, and then check with the underwriter as to the circumstances if we can go forward or not.
Okay, so all title companies are not created equal, then, is what you're saying too.
Similar but not equal. Yeah, similar, because there's always different.
We're not beating anybody up. We're just saying that it is different, because that was something that was a big surprise to everybody involved, and then turned out to not be a problem.
Right, and that is an advantage of having choices. Like if I have 5 different choices, so I feel fortunate that I could go to different places versus if I just had the one choice and that's my answer, period. Versus, well, I can try this, I could try, and I do like having the ability to have the choice of the underwriter that fits the situation the best.
Right, and then it obviously helps you close more escrows and help more people.
Exactly, because it doesn't help us if we say, sorry, we can't do it. Now, if we say sorry, we can't do it, we better give you a reason why we can't do it.
Exactly. Yes, and I'm sure there's valid reasons. So
we have to give a reason. And if you don't get a reason, you got to definitely ask.
And I probably should have started with this, but how long have you been in title?
Oh, a very long time. Shortly after high school in the early 80s.
So you're very knowledgeable. I know you've lived in Prescott a long time.
Yeah. I graduated from Prescott High School in 1982.
You said it, not me.
I said it. Yeah.
So I know you're very knowledgeable about the area, and you're very, very, very smart with... that's why I love when I get to call you. I go, I got the person who's going to answer this question for me.
Also, what I do is I'm also manager over our 2 offices. We have a Prescott Valley and a Prescott office.
Right.
So I do title work and management work. So I kind of they don't really always blend so well. So you kind of gotta kind of make it happen, make it work. Turn one faucet on and turn one faucet off, like hot and cold, and just make it work. So anyway, yeah, it works out great. I kind of enjoy the less than normal title work. It's kind of a challenge, and then when I get a call from you, I'm like, okay, let's see if we can make this work.
Because if I'm calling,
if you're calling,
I'm probably mad about something that I need your help with.
so it's I think it works out well. If I can't make it happen, I tell you why. If I can't make it happen, I make it happen.
Right. So not always a perfect process in real estate, but no, it's nice to have answers. And understanding.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I know just that situation, I learned a lot. And
I always tell buyers and sellers and agents and lenders, I just don't be afraid to ask the question.
Right.
If there's if you don't understand why something is the way it is, ask.
Right.
Like if you get a title report and there's something weird on there and you don't understand it, ask. There's different coverages. Say, for example, The lower coverage, the less risky coverage, is a standard owner's policy, and that basically covers you just for items of record. And then policies increase in risk, but increase in coverage, also like a auto homeowners policy. Those are they cover items of record plus physical items too, encroachments, different. There's a whole list of things that they cover that's over top of the standard. So, which means is some properties don't qualify for that increased coverage, and some properties do. Like say your regular subdivision parcel properties. They usually always can get a homeowner's policy.
Right.
Some of your harder properties, mining claim properties, ranches, different
The
things like
rural
that,
stuff.
rural stuff, stuff that doesn't front on a dedicated street. Mostly you can only get standard on those usually. But if you get a title commitment and it's not the coverage you want, or you think you should have, ask. Just say, well, how come I can't get this?
Right.
If they can't tell you, then they really should just give it to you, because if they can't give you a reason, they should give it to you.
They can't, right.
Yeah. So that's kind of like the differences of coverage there. So,
Right.
Yeah.
And we do have to explain that to buyers and sellers, because a lot of buyers come in, well, why do I need this? Well, you do. It covers them. Clear title is the goal, so that ultimately somebody can't come back and 5 owners ago and say,
hey, guess what?
And to make sure that liens are paid or assessments or
so
check all
title
of
people
that.
got to find all those stuff so they can tell the escrow officers, say, okay, you have 5 judgments, and you got 4 IRS liens, and you got 3 mortgages, and you got an HOA. This is all what you got to pay off. So they got to know that, so they can contact these people, get dollar amounts, so they can do a settlement statement and make sure that they have enough money in the escrow to pay all these people.
Right.
Which nowadays, with prices the way they are, is usually no problem. But back in like 2008, and when kind of the market was real down and people were barely getting enough out just to sell, that was a kind of an issue.
And then on this, I'm glad you brought up the settlement statements, because that is a huge part and something that every realtor should be looking at. And so I go through it when I get them, and then I talk to the escrow officer if we see any.
No, we actually appreciate that, because we want the realtor or the lender to really look at those, because you can't have enough eyes on something like that.
Right.
Because if something doesn't quite look right, and someone calls and say, can you check this line, and something not right, there's more chance of it being accurate at the close, because that's what we want. We want accuracy at the close of escrow, because it's the worst thing is to find out there was an inaccuracy after close of escrow. Right. Because the money's all gone.
And ultimately, you need to balance with the lender too.
Exactly.
That's I like going over those.
No,
making sure it's all
you to,
good.
Yeah.
It could be something that's totally out of the escrow officers. Maybe us realtors change the close of escrow date 2 or 3 times, and so the wrong date gets plugged in there or something. It's simple things like that.
And which date will reflect the prorations. And here's a sample. Say there's a contract written, and there's 3 or 4 counters back and forth on the price. Right. There has been times where the title commitment has gone out with the liability amount, and that liability amount didn't match the price. And then I get a call and say, hey, how come the liability amount is this? I'm like, well, I go through the file. I said, well, counter number 3 says such and such amount. She goes, you didn't get counter number 4. Please send it over.
Please send it over.
So because there's nothing worse than closing escrow on the wrong sales price.
That one. No, we don't let that happen.
That's not good. So it was good that the agent caught that, brought it to our attention, and then we found out what happened, and then we got the paperwork and amended everything. And So
So it's a good way of. I always tell buyers or sellers, we all have to be able to work together. You've got the realtors and the title and the lenders, and we have our teams of people that
Mm-hmm.
we know we work well with. So that's all part of it.
And it's communicating both ways, and like I say, extra pairs of eyes looking at things is always good too. You know.
Okay, Tim, thank you for joining me today, and thank you for answering all these title questions.
Oh, you're most welcome.
And I'm sure I'll be seeing you soon.